Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome everyone. We're here on the 7th week of the Ramadan, or with Ramadan Radio Wolf, should I say, on my show, the Revert Family Show. So 7 weeks has gone pretty quick, actually. I think next week, we've got a special show for everyone because one of my brothers, Manan and Adnan, they've recently refurbished their butchers, and I want to get them to come on the show and talk to us about what they've done because it looks fantastic and I want everyone to see it as well. So as always, this show is in connection with the charity Wolverhampton Muslim Outreach, a charity made by community members for the community to help anyone in their time of need by the means of which they're able to support. And you can get in contact with them via WhatsApp on 077 265 84473 to discuss your needs and how you're able to help. Just on that as well, with the charity, now that the lockdown is kind of easing slightly, we're going to be having discussions about when we can go out again and start helping the homeless, which we were doing every Wednesday. I'm on here on a Wednesday, but you know we want to go back and start doing those good things, which is good. And today, I'm actually joined by my sister's husband's father, yeah, yes, Suleiman Samuel. And you know, he's also a local man. He's from Birmingham, who does a lot for the community as well. And we'll speak about that kind of things in the second half of the show. But for now, Suleiman, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, alhamdulillah.
It's good to have you here. It's good to have you.
For the invite, man.
No problem. A few of us were wondering if you were going to come because obviously you turned your phone off. So then,
bit of drama before the session, bit of tension, you know what I'm saying? Keep everyone on their toes, thinking what's going on. But I was basically driving, and I realised my phone may die. So
okay.
I know if you switch your phone off and keep it on charge, it charges quicker.
Yeah, logical. But you find us all. You had my sister calling you, had your son calling you. Maybe your daughters were calling as well.
There was like a whole Richard Kimball future
exactly.
search
It was.
out for me.
And I was sitting there thinking, right, if he doesn't come on the show, what can I speak about? Oh, yeah, it's okay. I'll go a cappella. It's fine. But anyway, it's interesting because when I speak to your son, Muslim, and I asked him, I said, oh, your dad's story, do you know much about it? He's like, actually, no. Yeah, and I thought to myself, oh, that's interesting. And then I thought, is it a case of that you haven't shared your story with people, or has that conversation just never come up?
Well, I think, looking back at it, in the future, looking back at it, I think I became a Muslim I was going to say years ago, decades ago, actually, mashallah. But I think once you become a Muslim, and if you become a Muslim at a young age, I became a Muslim when I was like just after my 20th birthday.
Okay.
So at that point, it was just me, myself, and I. So then once you have children or you have a family, it might be 10, 15, 20 years into the future. For those 20 years of your children's life, you're just focusing on trying to do the right thing, because none of us are born fathers, if you like.
Yeah.
You have to you learn on the job.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't somewhere you can go and they'll kind of go, okay, so if you take this pill, this will instantly give you everything you need to know how to be a father. So I think for that first period, I was literally just focusing on, okay, my kids, growing them up, doing the right thing, the future. So I never really sat down and kind of shared in detail. But I know that we've definitely talked about it because when my brothers have been to my house, my family come round and we all sit and we all eat and we talk about school days and being naughty and detention. I know we've talked about how I became Muslim and the different kind of stages, and the different kind of influences. So it actually might be a good reminder for me to actually sit with them one day and kind of go, do you guys know all the details about how I became Muslim?
But we do know that your son's got a really bad memory. From when we when we were talking, he forgot he used to go to a park and things.
My son is a very practical guy. I think he's very clever in terms of problem solving. I think he doesn't always necessarily recall the finer details, which I think I'm a detail guy.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm a people guy and I remember things and places and so yeah, that kind of detail is important.
Yeah. Okay. I believe you more than that's all that needs to be said. And I think it's funny because I think this is probably the one time I've seen you in your casual clothing. Yeah, normally every time I see you, you've fully embraced the Islam. You know, you're wearing everything, and I'm like, oh no, it's good. And I had a question for that because recently I always wear my toppy everywhere, and it's been a good experience for me. And I thought, for you, when I always see you doing that, and you know, you can walk around fine.
Yeah.
What was the reason for doing that? You know, making sure that your outward appearance is identifiable as Islam.
I think ultimately, before I was a Muslim, my dress sense, I was always into loose, baggy, hanging, saggy kind of garments. I was always into comfort. Comfort more over style.
Okay.
So when I became a Muslim, the garments that me and my friends actually used to get made. Many reverts may know this story that I'm about to tell you, but I'll make it a concise story. You become Muslim, everyone welcomes you, brother, they love you, and then people want to do what they think is the right thing. So people will sometimes give you garments, give you clothing.
Okay.
So I had like a little selection of like silwars and kameez and stuff like that. But I appreciate that, but that wasn't really my kind of thing.
Yeah.
So myself and a handful of brothers who all became Muslim around the same year, we actually used to design our clothes on paper, and then we'd take it to a brother whose sister used to sew clothes. We'd buy the material, take it to the brother's sister, and she would literally make garments for us.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we'd make our own garments, which was a hybrid of kind of fashion, style, but it had that Islamic vibe to it. It was loose, it was flowing, it was, you know, tops that would go maybe, you know, down to the knees and that type of stuff.
Okay.
So with me, I've always loved that Islamic type of vibe that you get. And we just put a twist on it. Like, you know, the Arabs put a twist on it.
Yeah.
The Africans, they're not shy about,
Yeah, true.
you know what I'm saying, dropping it, how they drop it with the colours and everything like that. If you see the Somali sisters, you see how they dress. It's Islamic. You can tell it from a mile away, but they've got that style to them.
Yeah, that je ne sais quoi, as you call it.
You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's about, I love everything I do.
Yeah.
Even before I was a Muslim. Now I'm a Muslim, I should love life even more.
Alhamdulillah.
You know what I'm saying? So
makes
it's about getting the best of both worlds for me.
Yeah.
And if you see my daughters, who are in their 20s now, if you see how they dress, you'd be like, mashallah, them girls got... You could tell they're a Muslim from a mile away, because the Islamic spirit of dress is there, loose, flowing. But then you see the styles, the patterns, the designs, and you're like, hey, that's original. I like that. I like the way they come across as modern.
Okay.
You understand?
Yep.
Modern, elegant, but intelligent, forward thinking.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah.
That's good. That's interesting. You put your stamp on it, which is good. Which
definitely.
is good. So talk to me about before Islam then. I know we'll switch it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And before Islam. So, growing up, did you have faith? You know?
Yeah. I mean, coming from an African Caribbean family, from St. Vincent. I just plug St. Vincent because not many people plug it. You always hear about Barbados or Jamaica. But my family are from St. Vincent. We're all born in the UK. My mum came here in the 60s, I believe. And in terms of upbringing, most African Caribbean black families would be Christian or would follow that book, that faith. So every Sunday, from the time we were, you know, able to crawl or whatever, my mum was going to church. We would go to church as a family. And that went on until I got to like 16 years old. You know, we were in Sunday school, hearing all the Bible stories about Moses and Jesus and how wise Solomon was and all these things. So that stayed with us until we was about 12. And then at 12, you were a little big to stay in the Sunday school, you know, doing colouring and hearing stories. Then they move you into the church.
Okay.
But what me and my family did, we were always members of the choir.
Okay.
So we were actually, if you've ever watched Songs of Praise in the morning or them types of thing, you see when the priest comes out walking, he's got a whole kind of crew, posse behind him.
Yeah.
And they're wearing all the long garments. Well, those long garments, they're called cassocks.
Okay.
And you have to go into the vestry, which is like where all the people get dressed and everything, and you put all that stuff on. Even in the choir, you put it on, then you go upstairs. And we were at the back, above the whole church, singing.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And in between the hymns, we'd be doing whatever we'd be doing, which I ain't going to say. But, you know, we enjoyed it. It was fun.
Okay.
So that was the kind of our upbringing, every Sunday, that was a staple. You had to go church. If you didn't go church, you had to, either your leg was falling off or something was happening why you couldn't go to church.
Yeah.
And our church was literally 2 minutes walk around the
Okay.
corner. You know what I'm saying? So you hear
Yeah.
the bell ring at 9 o'clock. So you knew you had half an hour to get to church.
Yeah.
So that was kind of our upbringing. That was our, in many ways, now that I'm Muslim, that kind of Sunday, everyone goes to church, everyone drops everything. It kind of reminds me of the Jummah that we have now, every Friday, where, you know, no matter how religious or non-religious or whatever you are, most of the brothers, the men know it's Friday, bruv. Jummah, let's hit it.
Let's
Come
go.
on, man.
Make sure we're there.
If you ain't doing nothing else,
Yeah.
you can't miss Jummah. You understand? So there were similarities there. So that was the kind of foundation. And my mum wasn't a woman who was really into kind of preaching at you,
Okay.
but she was a woman that had belief. She always had this belief.
Yeah.
So we grew up knowing, without question, there's a God, there's a creator. And we knew, we didn't know much, but we knew if you do too many bad things on a day of judgment, how are you going to explain yourself? We knew that we were going to have to explain ourselves. We knew it.
Yeah.
There was no doubt in my mind, you know? So that was the vibe that was in our house. That's what we were growing up. My mum would sing a lot of hymns, you know? I won't attempt to recreate any of those right now. But, you know, you got Rock of Ages and there's a handful of others that the black community will know. But in between those hymns, she would often just be saying things about... My mum had a really famous saying. My mum would say to us, if God spares life, tomorrow we will do X, Y, and Z. If God spares life, tomorrow I need to go and do that. If my mum had been speaking Arabic, she would have been saying, Insha'Allah.
Yes.
She'd have been saying.
Yeah.
So my mum, when I look at it now as a Muslim, I realise, Allahu Akbar, look at my mum. She knew what she knew and she did the best with what she knew. But if you had turned her language from English to Arabic, she would have been doing something called dhikr.
Yeah.
Because that's what she was constantly on. Singing songs, remembering God, da-da-da-da-da. And so we grew up not being brainwashed because we still had the freedom to do everything we wanted, football, youth clubs, all that type of stuff. But we just grew up with that fundamental... In Islam, you call it the fitrah.
Yes.
I thank God, I thank Allah that He gave us to my mum as children. He gave, you know, as babies, He chose her to look after us. Because I say to people all the time when I talk to them who ask me, how did you become Muslim? How did you find Islam? I say, well, the first thing is my mum gave us the best start in life, the best possible start. She kept us close to that straight and narrow, that fitrah. She helped to preserve it. So we always knew right from wrong growing up. And even when we saw our friends inviting us to do what we believed was way over the line, we were always like, nah, that's not for us. No, thank you. We might watch you do it, but we can't afford to take part. Number one, that's just not right. And number two, my mum will have serious words with me if I get found out doing that and breaking the rules. You understand?
Yeah.
So that was our foundation. But as kids, we had a great upbringing. You know, we weren't allowed to go out and do whatever we wanted. My mum was always, where are you going and why are you going there?
Yeah.
So we had to have a reason. But I'm glad for that because it taught us self-discipline. It taught us the ability to control ourselves and not just wherever the wind blows, you have to go and drift with it. You know, we were able to, I think it made us people who were a bit more conscientious.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
definitely.
growing up, we were fun kids. Our family was one of those families that everyone knew. There was a lot of big families back then. People had like 6, 7. I mean, I've got 8. There's 8 kids in our family, 8 children.
Okay.
And I'm number 7. So I'm the second youngest. The rest of them are big, strapping men, you understand? And there's one sister, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that was the kind of foundations to our growing up. It was church on a Sunday, and then the other 5 days of the week, Monday to Friday, was school.
Okay.
Or college.
Yeah.
You had to be doing something. You couldn't be sitting at home talking about, I'm 18 and I don't want to go out and work. Nah,
No, not going
doesn't
to.
work. No, not in our family. It
Yeah.
doesn't work like that. So we had ambition, and we always saw our mum working hard. And the other thing, I never ever saw my mum give up on something.
Okay.
I never ever saw her go, it's too hard, I'm going to throw in a towel, or, this is too much. Never ever saw my mum quit or give up, ever. So I've always kind of all of my brothers have kind of embodied and inherited and absorbed that same kind of work ethic, which is nothing is impossible. You just, sometimes it might just take longer, or you might need some help, but it's possible. There's always a way.
I agree. Yeah, definitely. That's powerful, because not many people understand the power of a mother. Yeah, and appreciate it as well. Yeah, in a lot of some cultures as well, the women, and people hear about how women are treated in cultures and things like that. But in Islam, and when you look at it as a core, the woman, the mother, or the daughter, or whatever, they're it. Yeah. And like you talk about the foundations, the same for myself. The foundations were there, and then without those foundations, you're kind of lost. And women, for me, can do a lot of things that men can't. Like you said, she doesn't quit. And there's a lot of different things that they come up against.
I mean, the point you make, it's huge, and you could do a show just on that one point you make. In fact, you could do a series of shows.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like the Prophet ﷺ said. You know, you have the Hadith, the English translation. The man came to the Prophet and asked him, peace be upon him, to whom should I show the most duty and loyalty and servitude? And he said, your mother. And the man said, okay, so after my mother, who? And he said, your mother. The man said, okay, after her, who? Your mother. Okay, so after your father. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the status of the mother is huge.
Yeah.
And again, that's one of those things that when I became a Muslim, I started to learn about Islam, and we learned all these, what I class as almost character building, ethical types of hadith teachings, attitudes, morals, you know, the proverbial stuff that, you know, the bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, and all these types of phrases. If you don't know those phrases, look them up, because they're deep. But the point is, Islam came with stuff that I was like, it literally blew my mind. I was like, whoa. For instance, in the Caribbean, we have a phrase: don't hang your hat where you can't reach it.
Yep.
If you were to study that phrase, listen, psychologists, sociologists, they could write volumes on that. But in its simplest, you know, condensed form, don't hang your hat where you can't reach it. Don't try and be something you're not. Or don't get yourself into situations that you can't really handle and deal with and maintain.
Exactly.
And you can take that through to debt, people borrowing stuff to have a certain lifestyle which they actually can't afford to fund. But it's all on debt, credit, etc. So, and this is not even an Islamic saying. This is just a saying from old-time people from the Caribbean, our parents, our grandparents. But when I came to Islam, it had even deeper stuff. I'm like, yo, that's deep. One of my favorite sayings is the Prophet ﷺ's hadith, La yu'minu ahadakum hatta yuhibba li akhihi ma yuhibba li nafsi. Ma yuhibbu li nafsi. You know, none of you is a real believer, has real belief until you love. Not until you like, until you love for others or for your brother or your sister what you love for yourself. When I read that, well, it took me a good couple of weeks to really, every time I thought about it, I was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I agree with that as well.
Whoa.
Because there's certain things that when you go through life, right, and the dunya, and there's things that you want, okay? Like, for example, and me and my sister have gone through this change recently, and I see that you get so much barakah and blessings with things when you follow that.
Yes.
Yeah, so for example, my sister now, and I'm going to give her a shout out, she'll be listening, be like, hey, yeah, thank you. She's doing she thought about 6 days ago, 7 days ago, she was like, you know, I really want to help Muslim sisters. You know, there's not much stuff out there for Muslim sisters and businesses in the local area. And I was like, okay, so what do you want to do? She wants to set up a WhatsApp group and just do daily podcasts of things that are going to motivate and positive speech. And I was like, okay. And then, so she was doing it, started off the group, people were joining, doing these different things. I was like, alhamdulillah. But then, you know, you get the shaitan, yeah, and he whispers, right? And so she had the intention straight away to want to give. Just give. But then she was focusing on, people are joining and then they're leaving. Joining, leaving. And I was like, why are you focusing on the fact that people are leaving? That's not what you did it for. Yeah, because she was really adamant. She said, I want to get this to 100 people so I can support a business. I want to give a giveaway. And so her focus was like 100 people.
Yeah.
But rather than, I said, no, focus on the fact that you're giving, you're there giving your dawah from this.
Yeah.
And I said, open up the group to talk, get people to speak to each other and interact. And don't focus on the results,
Yeah.
focus on the journey and what you're there to do.
Yeah.
And as soon as she did that, alhamdulillah, now it's just blown up.
Mashallah.
In those 7 days, so she's doing the daily thing, and then you got people who are saying, "Oh, this is fantastic, sister. We haven't had things like this before." You get loads more people coming in, more interaction, other females wanting to do other things like what Aisha's doing. And I said, Aisha, look, when you just go in there because you loved the fact that you were giving,
Yeah.
and then it started blossoming in.
Yeah.
But when you started focusing on your own satisfaction and things like that, then it's like, no, it doesn't work. Okay, so it's interesting you did that and you mentioned that. We've got 5 minutes until the break. I did want to ask a question, but I doubt we've got the time for it. But we can always carry on after the break.
Throw it in.
So you spoke about those things in your youth, and growing up in Christianity, because I was the same, and it was very much the Sunday vibe. Where? I'm not gonna say did it go wrong. I'm just gonna say where did it change? Where did it change from Christianity to then Islam?
See, it went right.
Yes, I know. That's what I didn't want to say. It goes wrong.
Now, growing up, I've got my brothers. I'm the second youngest. And so it was my brothers that we would go out with. My brother Mitchell, my brother Tom, who were the two brothers immediately older than me. Me and Tom were really tight, sleeping in the same bedroom, bunk beds. And Mitchell's older than both of us. But it was Mitchell that would get us out. And he would get us out, get us moving around, take us places. So it's like he was one of the first people to kind of start studying. He just, off his own back, he just started looking into black history. I really didn't have that much interest in that because I'm a kind of a mid-teenager, leaving schoolish age. So I was just having fun, hanging out with my friends, playing football. I was just enjoying myself. Had a mountain bike, so me and my friends always going trekking or whatever. So I think what happened with Islam, it's like I actually wasn't, this is important to say, I wasn't looking for another religion. I would actually say I wasn't even looking for God. At 16, when I realised, hey, my mum can't force me to go to church anymore, and she realises we're working and we've got other things, we're studying, so you kind of got a bit of an excuse for why maybe you overslept.
Yeah.
I was working Saturday or whatever. So it just got to this stage where we'd faded away from the church and we were doing our thing. So from 16 to about 18 and a half, 19, I was pretty much doing my own thing. New friends, going here, going there, party, blah, blah, blah. All those things that my mum had kind of tried to filter from us.
Yeah.
And keep out of her house. All of a sudden, I had access to that because my mum couldn't follow me everywhere. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
After 2.5, 3 years of having freedom, I kind of realised, you know what? In order to keep feeling as good and as high and as, happy as I used to be, I have to keep upping the ante. I have to keep doing more stuff because there's more Joneses I have to keep up with now. So I have to buy more nice clothes because the circles I'm now hanging in, everyone's dressing flash. So I got to dress more flash or as flash.
Yeah.
If I want to get the attention of this person or that person, well, I've got competition now because there's other dudes with flashy cars and with more money and they're getting all the attention. So I've got to now try and look as flash and get into their league or just to keep up with them. And after doing that for a while and also being in the whole nightclub scene and seeing it from an insider's point of view, because if we do another show, I can go into a bit more detail. But
Yeah.
I kind of just realised, you know what? This is kind of empty. It's vacuous. I've got to keep doing something slightly more, better, greater, in order to get that same feeling of satisfaction. And the satisfaction's temporary.
Definitely. I agree with that. Okay, so just before we go on a break, that's a point that I do want to add to with the dunya. You know, when you talk about people who are successful, and then unfortunately you see people committing suicide and things like that. And you're like, how is someone who's got all that money and all those kind of things?
Yeah.
How do they end up in such a bad state? And you know, the depression and all those kind of things is because of what you just said. They're constantly chasing the next temporary high.
Yeah.
And when I did a show with Manan, my brother, we talked about the Return to Islam series. We talked about the environment and things that you do that are temporary in the dunya is there to just make you unhappy. But you look at it, and as humans, we want instant gratification. Yeah. Naturally, that's what we want. So, you know, when you got social media and you put a post up, for myself, I used to put a post up of my car and you see how many likes you get and you're like, yeah, I'm feeling good. But then the likes slow down and you're like, ugh, I got to put another picture up. How can I take a better picture of my car? Different angles. So it's the same kind of thing. And you think to yourself, like you said, is it worth it? Because it just brings you to a place that you can't reach. You can't reach ultimate happiness in the dunya, unfortunately. And it's only when you're doing things yourself that you realize that. Yeah, and I've been blessed, fortunately, to realize that no matter what I do for the dunya, it's not going to make me ultimately happy. And when I see others the same, I'm like, maybe you will one day see that. You may be happy now, but it can go at any point. So, yeah, when we come back, we'll speak a bit more, inshallah.
Inshallah,
okay?
indeed.
So, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello, everyone, again. We're here for the second half of the show with my brother Suleiman. Before we went to the break, he was telling us about his journey. So, I won't take him any more time. Back over to you.
Yeah, wa alaikum salam, everyone. So, just to pick up, at 19 and a half, I really actually wasn't looking for more God stuff or more religious stuff. Because as I said in the break, a little bit of an insider bit here, we were talking in the break when the mic was quiet, and I was saying that, you know, I had got to the age of 19 and I really, as far as I was concerned, in terms of religion, it was Christianity. And in terms of Christianity, it was basically Noah, Adam, Abraham, Noah, Moses, Solomon, Jesus, full stop. That was the end. There was no other books, and the prophets have all gone. That was 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
So for me, religion wasn't the answer to this missing thing that was inside me. You understand, this feeling of, is this really it? Is this all there is to life? Is this what I'm going to be doing from the age of 20 until I'm old and grey and retire? I'm going to be trying to just keep up with having some type of great looking lifestyle, and the only options I'm going to have are the nightclub or golf or whatever it is in between. And I just thought, there's got to be more to life than the lifestyle I'm leading right now, because this isn't it.
Yeah, it's empty.
Yeah, it's empty. So from my point of view, I was not looking for a religion. And I didn't think religion had the answer anyway, because I'd been to church, and I just thought, well, yeah, that's nice. You're waiting for Jesus to come, to return. But in the meantime, what are we doing? As a young man, what am I meant to be as a human being? I'm a young man living in the UK, in England. I'm black. And so I kind of started realizing, well, there are some disadvantages. Even if I wanted to change this lifestyle and lead a more, I don't know, normal, fulfilling, I thought, well, where am I going to find that? Because in the country we live in, as a 19-year-old, there are certain things you're expected to be doing on the weekend and on a Friday night. But I found myself at home not wanting to go and do them anymore. And I started thinking, is there something wrong with me? Because it's Friday night, it's Saturday night, and I know what me and my boys would normally be out doing. I can't demonstrate it in the studio.
Okay.
Anyway, so I'm thinking, well, why don't I want to do that stuff anymore? Why am I in my house thinking?
Yeah.
I'm in my house thinking. And to me, that was odd. It was like, I don't know what's going on. Am I going crazy? Is this the first signs of madness? I mean, am I becoming antisocial? What's going on? And the music I used to listen to, I whittled my music down. I used to listen to all kinds of music, jump up and down music and all kinds of music, party music, hip hop, R&B, soul. My mum was into Elvis Presley, so I've had all of that.
Yeah.
Right through to the whole Motown, Michael Jackson, right through to blah, 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 the whole shebang. So I started to whittle my music down, because I thought, well, maybe if I listen to music, that will make me feel better. Because it usually makes me feel better. But I found certain tunes, I was just like, I'm not really in the mood to jump up and down. I'm trying to find meaning.
Okay.
I'm not trying to just, go crazy. Let's all dance. I'm trying to really think about why am I here?
Yeah, focus.
Yeah, what am I meant to be doing? Is this really it? Is this what life is really about? Eat, work, drink, sleep, wake up, repeat type thing. And on the weekend, let your hair down and spend your money. And then again, Monday morning, go back to the same routine. And I just thought, nah, is this really it? Is this what I'm 19? Is this adulthood? Is this what I've got to look forward to? Because this is disappointing. So listening to music, started to filter out the music, because it's like, I'm not feeling that. I'm not into, no, that's not really what. my attitude was changing. And eventually, I literally whittled it down to a handful of songs which had meaningful lyrics. There was a guy called Master Ace. Mm-hmm. And if you're old school, you know about Master Ace. And he has a tune called The Other Side of Town. That tune killed me. Because he's telling you about, he's painting a picture of the poverty that he sees where he lives in America. And I'm like, whoa. And that in some ways kind of almost kept my heart kind of alive, you know, not physically alive, but that spiritual alive. It did something. It tuned me into other human beings and what was going on.
Okay.
Whether it was empathy, because when you listen to them tunes, you have to empathize and sympathize, and then it makes you grateful for the situation you're in, that you're not living on Skid Row. You understand? Or your mother wasn't addicted to drugs. Do you understand? So, so it makes you a more self-reflecting person, but it gives you something bigger than yourself to think about. And after whittling the music down, this was back in the day when you had TDK tapes. You know what I'm saying? If you're old school, you know what I'm talking about. The tapes, right? If the brown strip broke, you'd have to get sellotape, put it back together. You'd have to get a pencil or a pen, stick it into the little hole, and then swing it around. You know what I'm saying? So you can see I'm kind of old, new school as well. But where the kind of change came was I literally got rid of most of my music and I was listening to jazz. Because jazz was literally, it was just about a feeling and a mood in the music. There was not often very much lyrics. It was just a vibe.
Okay.
But then even then I thought, this is okay, but it's not giving me answers. I mean, I still have to live in this world. And even if I got to the point where I thought, if I want to be a good person, and I don't want to do anything that harms anyone or harms myself, whether that's physical harm, emotional harm, psychological harm, mental harm, I just want to do things that are good for me and good for others. Yeah, I want to kind of filter out anything, any negativity, how am I going to survive like that? Because that's just not the real world. People just aren't like that. People are looking for people like me. They would call me a mug, or they call me an idiot because they think, boy, look upon that boy. Because they would think, you're green, you don't know nothing. You're walking around with this whole kind of like, isn't the world lovely and life is lovely? And they'd be like, yeah, we can probably rip him off or con him or get some money out of him. So I thought, you can't be a foolish, ignorant, stupid, silly person. But I thought, but I want to be better than I am. And I don't know how to do that because people are better in pockets.
Yeah.
There isn't a universal place where people are trying to be better. In this country, I realise I'm a black man, I'm a young black man, I've got my life in front of me, inshallah, but I've got disadvantages because there's something called prejudice and racism and discrimination. So even if let's say I wanted to become the best person I could be, there would be obstacles that might prevent me, that might keep me from doing that might take me off that path. So what do? Do I abandon that desire to be better because other people maybe want a disadvantage and not see that happen, not see me succeed? And I literally got to that point where I was thinking, is there anywhere on the planet I could go that I knew at the age of 19 where I'd be able to live this lifestyle with like-minded people? And I thought, well, I'm not really sure. I didn't know about Islam.
Okay.
I had no clue that there was something called the Quran. Had no clue there was someone called Muhammad, peace be upon him. I thought it was Christianity, the Bible, Jesus, full stop, see you in the next coming type thing. So for me, it was like, I need answers. I can't be in this limbo. I need a solution. I need some direction. I need help. And I think that's where, when my mum used to bring us up and take us to church, I sat there one night and I was literally like, I do not know what to do now. I've got myself to a point by myself where I know what I don't want anymore and I know what I do want, but how can I keep it? How can I sustain it? So literally one night I got on my knees and I kind of put my hands in front of me as that's what we were taught. And my words were, God, if you're kind of there and you can hear me, I'm just looking for the truth. Those were my words. I didn't say, God, I want religion, or God, I want you to take me out of this place and whatever. It was literally, God, I just want the truth. I just need to know. I just need answers. I need the truth. Wallahi, Aki, within a couple of days, a friend who I always used to hang out with, we used to hang out as a group. Literally, I had stopped hanging out with my friends for 2 weeks at this house. And then I've changed my lifestyle. I was always working, but I had got some other jobs. And it was whilst I was jogging between one job, because again, it was about, okay, let me do the best for myself. So I used to jog on my almost tiptoes from one job to another job. It was about 1.5 miles. I used to jog. And just in that same mind frame of keeping myself open to new things, inviting new things in, because I know what the old stuff's like, I don't want that anymore. Rather than going my normal route along the main road, something said, why don't you go this other route? It's just fresh, it's just different. Just, keep things open. Go that way. So I took a left instead. And literally, as I got to this corner, I stopped jogging. I thought, let me walk for a minute or two, then I'll jog when I get to the other road. As I've turned this corner, this guy who we used to hang out with at the house, he is walking, literally almost bump into each other. First, and he's older than me. He's my brother's age, about 2-3 years older than me. The first thing he says to me is, I've been looking for you for 2 weeks. And I'm like, that's unusual because you used to hang out with us on the weekends.
Yeah.
But he always used to carry himself in a more respectful way. You understand? We were jokers. We didn't really care. I remember him saying, you know what? We need to smoke less, We smoke too much. And we were all like, yeah, you're right, yeah, we should cut down. But none of us really, we didn't mean it. We were just saying it because he said it.
Yeah.
And I remember he came to the house one day and he said to me, I used to cut hair. So he said to me, can you cut my hair? And he used to have dreadlocks. So this is a black guy. So I'm like, whoa, why are you asking me to cut off your dreadlocks? Because as a black man, having dreadlocks, that's like the pinnacle of you becoming a man. That's a symbol of, I am now a man. Do you know what I'm saying? It's that kind of thing. So when he said cut them off, that puzzled me. Because I was like, you cut your dreadlocks off, where are you going from there? I mean, dreadlocks, that's as black as it gets.
Yeah, true.
So I'm thinking, this dude wants me to cut these off. So I start cutting them off. And while we're cutting them off, I offered this guy a cigarette. And he looks at me and he just went, no. And I was like, what? And he said, I told you. Give that stuff up. I was shocked. I looked at this guy and I'm like, what? You want me to cut off your dreads? You've given up smoking.
What's happened?
I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't get this. And I almost felt embarrassed when I offered him the cigarette, because by offering him that cigarette, I was kind of saying, yeah, all that stuff you said, I know it was just hot air and rubbish.
Yeah.
And when he said, no, I told you, I'm giving that stuff up, I was kind of like, I was embarrassed, like, oh my God, I've just insulted you by letting you know what I thought, that you're just like us. Just all talk, no walk. So those were little signs that were happening during that year period when I'm 19 going to 20. And then after that, I just thought, you know what, I don't want to hang out at this house anymore with all these people. It's just boring, same old, same old. So I remember I left and I didn't come back for 2 weeks. Like I said,
yeah.
I bumped into him 2 weeks later after cutting his hair.
Okay.
But I remember there was one last thing I did. I went back to the house and I thought to myself, after I made my dua and everything, I went back to the house and I knew I'm going to walk in this house. And even my brother was in the house. He used to hang out there. My brother and my best friend. I said, I'm going to walk in the house. If it's the same old inside that door, behind those doors, I'm walking out and I'm never going back again. I remember walking in, sat on the arm of the couch. Everyone's in there talking, smoking, whatever. And I just was like, yeah, everyone cool? Yeah, we're all cool. And I'm watching. And I just thought, there's nothing here for me. there's nothing here for me anymore. And I just went, listen, I'm gone. And they were like, you're going already? And I'm like, yeah, I got some stuff I got to do, but I'll catch you man up, all right? Walked out, shut the door, never went back.
Wow.
Never went back. Never went back. Just knew there's no future there for me, and I don't want nothing from them people or nothing from inside that house. And literally from that point, everything changed. Bumped into the guy like I told you. First thing he said to me was, where are you going? Well, I've been looking for you for 2 weeks. Where are you going? I said, I'm going to work. He said, listen, you want to meet me later? And in my head I thought, my brain did this really quick kind of calculation. Do you want to meet this guy? Do you trust this guy? What's this guy really about? I mean, why does he want to meet you for? And all the answers came back, well, actually, this guy, he says stuff and he keeps his word. He said he's going to give up smoking. He gave up smoking. You've never seen him lie. You've never seen him do anything dishonest or underhand. So actually, do you have any reason to distrust him? And I thought, no. And so I said to him, okay, I'll meet you later. So that was an internal conversation in my head. I was kind of vetting him, risk assessing him. You know, do I want to meet this guy? He then said to me, go down this road, take a right turn, walk up the top, and then you're going to see this big building with green paint on it. You'll see shoes outside the front. It's called the blah, and I'll be there. And he said this word that I'd never heard before. Later on, he had said the word mosque.
Okay.
But I'd never heard it before. That's how my journey to becoming a Muslim started. Literally that evening, I finished work, 8 o'clock, and I walked to the mosque. And I remember I had cigarettes in my pocket because I hadn't given up.
Yeah.
But he had. And I remember thinking to myself, do you know what? You're going to meet this guy in less than 10 minutes. Yeah, it's 10 minutes walk. Do you really want to meet him and you've got these cigarettes on you and you're still doing the same old? And I kind of went, you know what? No, I don't. I want to be, I don't need this. I don't want this stuff. Actually, I want to give up. And I remember taking the stuff out my pocket, screwing it all up and throwing it. And it actually bounced and hit a drain and went down a drain. Well, like, I couldn't have, Spielberg couldn't have written this stuff, this script, but it's literally what happened. So I threw the stuff and it went down the drain. And I remember before I threw the stuff, there was this internal conversation that went on. Something said, don't throw it away, keep it. And something else said, why are you going to keep it for? You know this stuff is bad for you, you don't even want it anyway. Okay, well, don't throw it, save it till later. You could smoke it after you've been with him. And I thought, well, that's hypocritical. Something said, that's hypocritical. You know you don't want to keep this stuff. You want to just get rid of it. And another voice said, okay, give it to your brother. And wallahi, when that voice in my head said, give it to your brother, I immediately thought, why would I want to give it to my brother something I don't even want for myself anymore? Yeah. And that was it. I just pocket, screwed it up, threw it, bounced down the drain, gone. And I was like,
you're not getting that back again.
That's that. There's no going back now.
Exactly.
So I walked to the masjid, got to the masjid, saw the building. It was maybe between Asr and Maghrib times. It was still sunny. It was summertime. It was still sunny. I remember taking off my shoes, leaving them outside, walking into this corridor of the house, thinking, where do I go? Following the corridor around, opening this door up, and there was a massive room with nothing in it, pillars, and it was all windows. Because it was on the ground floor, and it was a big old house that they converted. But I just remember the sun rays coming in from the garden and hitting the floor. And I remember looking in the corner and seeing the brother, Omar, he was there, black brother. There was another brother called Dawood from my town. He's black as well, African Caribbean. And then there was a Pakistani man, who I know was Pakistani now, but at the time, to me, he just looked Asian at the time.
Yeah.
And he waved at me. Omar was like, yeah. So I walked over, sat down with them, and then from that night, we just started reasoning and talking. And we would reason about the normal stuff black people would reason about. Yeah. But then this Pakistani guy, he's bringing in these other angles. You know, we're talking, we're reasoning, and he's keeping up with us. We're talking about political stuff and social stuff and historical. This guy's able to kind of keep up with us. And I'm thinking, oh, okay. But he's talking slightly differently. And then the other thing to mention, this guy, he has a lisp and a stammer. Okay. And he had a very strong, freshy, you guys will understand what that means. He had a strong, freshy accent, like he literally just arrived. A really strong Pakistani accent. But you could tell this guy wasn't educated. You could tell he's probably not even done GCSEs, because he wasn't that smart, as in smart. But as the weeks, we went back to the masjid almost every evening for weeks. And we would just sit, same time, and just reason and talk. And then the subject started to change onto society, the world, human beings, the things we do to each other, you know, wars, death. And then this guy starts talking deep about the soul and the heart. And he's saying stuff that I've never heard before. And I'm just like, whoa, where's this guy getting this from? Because he's talking stuff that's deep.
Yeah.
You'd have to go A level, if not above, to really talk about those. Then we're talking about human beings. We're talking about societies. We're talking about what happens to the human being when he does the wrong thing. And this guy's keeping up with us. And then we're talking about the water cycle and embryology. And this guy knows more than us. And I'm thinking, okay, now this doesn't make any sense. Where's this guy getting this from? Then they start talking about history and God and what happened to the people before us, the other nations. And then they start talking about the Prophet Muhammad. And I'm like, oh. Then he starts talking about in the Quran. So we didn't lay it on heavy and thick. We just talked as men about our experience of life. But his was still relevant as ours was. And even though he wasn't black like us, he was still brown like us. But different language, different background, but he understood. And it was literally week after week. I think it was about 6 months. I went back to the masjid almost every evening.
Wow.
And we would just talk, meet the same 3 or 4 of us talk. And eventually the questions that I had about life, he was answering them. We were discussing them. And he's putting forward these understandings that I've never heard before. And by the time about 4 months came, I was already praying in the rows in the mosque. I was praying Maghrib with them. I'm not Muslim, but I'm joining in the prayer because it just seemed natural. Like, oh, you guys going to go and pray? I'll watch for a while. Actually, I might join in. And it was literally on one of the days when we'd finished the prayer and I was walking out of the prayer, out of the rows. A brother, an older brother, gave me salam, shook my hands, and he said to me, brother, so when are you going to become Muslim? And I was kind of like, boy, I don't know. And then once again, that kind of, the voices, one voice was like, don't answer him. Don't answer. Don't answer. And the other voice was like, well, why wouldn't you answer when you got to hide? The other voice was like, well, if you answer, you know that's it. There's no going back to your old lifestyle. You can't do any of that stuff anymore. You're going to be trapped. You know, you're going to have your freedom gone. And the other one was like, yeah, but you don't want that old lifestyle anymore. You've already given that up, right? You don't want to go back to that. And the other voice was like, yeah, but if you say yes, you're going to become a Muslim, you know that that's it. Nothing, you can't do anything anymore. And the other voice was like, you do know that God knows exactly what you're thinking right now. And God knows that if you say no, it's just an excuse and you're not really being truthful. Mm-hmm. You said you wanted the truth. You said you wanted to be a better person. So now what? You're going to suddenly be like, oh, I'm not sure. I still want some time to follow my nafs and my desires. So, and as soon as that voice said, you do know God knows you're thinking of an excuse right now. I just went, Friday. That just shook me like, oh my God, God knows what, God knows God knows that my other conscience is trying to make me come up with some hustle, an excuse. And I was just like, Friday. I don't know why I chose Friday, Friday. And obviously now we know the significance of Fridays. And the Imam from that masjid was one of the most beautiful, gentle human beings I've ever met. Even his voice was just so gentle and he laughed. And I remember it was on Friday, I believe it was after Maghrib, and the masjid was pretty packed. And we did the Shahada in the masjid. The Imam sat me down. He told people crowded around.
Wow,
so it was like a big circle of people after the prayer around us. Me and him were in the middle. We were knee to knee. So he sat, I'm sat knee to knee. And then he just explained to them, this is brother so-and-so, and he wants to accept Islam. And, so he said, you understand this? Do you understand that? I said, yeah, I understand. Then he said, okay, I'm going to say the Shahada. So he literally began reading the Shahada in Arabic. And we had such a beautiful understanding between me and this Imam that he would read the Shahada, Ashhadu, and I would go, Ashhadu, and he would say, Anla, and I would go, Anla. And then if he said something that I didn't quite catch, rather than kind of blagging it or being embarrassed and thinking, oh, let me just say it as best as I can, I would lean forward like this. And then he knew that was a signal that he needed to repeat it again.
Alhamdulillah.
Because I wanted to make sure that I understand what I'm saying and I'm saying it the right way.
Alhamdulillah.
So coming into Islam, that was important to me. And making sure from the very beginning I was just doing the best I could.
Okay, unfortunately, I have to cut you off there. But if anyone wants to hear more of this story, we're going to carry on talking after this. So, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.